part 8 of the Grand Prix 3D F1 car build. Hello, this is BJ from Hearns Hobbies and welcome to part 8 of the Grand Prix 3D F1 car build. Okay, so this is where I'm at. I've got engine bits here. Pretty much did most of this last week, and then here's the bulk of the chassis. Okay, so it's getting very close to looking more like an F1 car. So this will just slot into here. And it's looking pretty good. So this is a fairly good representation of how this has got the amalgamation of a scale model mixing in with a actual functioning radio control car. Okay, so here we've got our instruction manual. This is where we're up to. Pretty much done all the wiring. We've done the trumpets. And now we're going to move on to the exhaust. So let me just shift this stuff over this side. Actually, let's separate that. And I'll get our bits here. So we've got bag 6 now. This is further on with the engine details. All right, let's empty those here. All right, I've got exhaust. Size of the engine detail there as well. Okay. All right, let's move on. We've got these sides. So we've got the exhaust mounting plates. Just got paying attention where the notches are. So we've got a little small notch here to fit within the engine casting. And then let's just make sure we've got the right part here. Okay, so the right exhaust pipe. So that's the right exhaust pipe, so that's going to go with this one. This one should go with that one, I'd say. Which means, pop these together. Okay, so just got to screw those up with some 2x8s. 2x8 countersinking. Okay. We've got all these little ones here. Oh, that'll be the hardware in here. Okay, so we need 8 of these. Okay, and what we're going to do now, just screw them together. Okay, so they go in different angles, so we need to pay attention while we're doing that. All right, so we'll start off. We're going to do this number 2 here, just to tack it all together. Yep, long size bit. So I'm using the 50 thou here. Okay, so that's just holding it all together, and now we're going to do the rest. Oh, it's just popped out a little bit. Clip it back. Just going to tighten all these up until they've just nipped up. Don't want to over tighten anything because there's always the danger of stripping out the thread. Alright, so I've got one side all done. Alright, so let's do the opposing. We'll do exactly the same order. Okay, so one in here to tack it together. Paying attention that we've got them in the right locations because there's a notch in these mounting points. Let me just double check that before continue on. So we've got the notches on each side here. Alright, so that's correct. Just keep going. Okay, and this one on the very end goes in at quite a steep angle. Looks unnatural, but that's the way it is for this because of the curvature in this exhaust pipe. Okay, here we go. Alright, so we've got our exhaust pipes all mounted. Alright, next part. Alright, so we're going to get our screws 1.6 by 4s. 1.6 by 4s, these little tackers here. Alright, and we're going to be screwing them onto the sides of the engine. Alright, so we've got... What's the one here? It's a nice click type fit. So you just held in with these two screws. It's the wrong size. Oh, there we go. 1.5 mil, that makes a difference. Alright, now the other side, do it exactly the same way. This will clip into place. There we go. And then again, two screws are hold into place. Okay, that's with the exhaust on. Looks really nice. All right, so I guess we're going to move on to the joins here, and there we go. The very ends of the two exhaust pipes. So we need 2x6 countersunk. All right, so we've got those two there, the little black screws. Okay, so let's see what we've done here. All right, let's just lay our engine there like the manual. Okay, so we're going to get one of these parts. Okay, so I need the top section which doesn't have the hole going all the way through. Okay, so that's going to be this one here. All right, so that's going to go there. Might as well do the other side at the same time. Then I guess this is going to lock this one into place. All right, so make sure we got it the right way around so it's angled up. And this will clamp it all together. Okay, so I'm going to need two hands to do this. Alright, so there you go. So just going to make sure this is angled up. So that's basically clamped together, but the screw will be holding that together really tight. Okay, looks good. Alright, let's do exactly the same thing on the other end. And then we'll get the screws in to tighten it all up and make it permanent. Okay, I'll put all the screws in. No, that's the wrong size. 50 thou. Alright, just check the side here. So you see there's a big gap. This screw should be pulling this all tight together. You see it's closing up now. Just a little bit more. Alright, so that's clamped really tight now. So basically we want to screw it up so there's no gap left. So slight gaps on the ends because that's where it's clamping onto the exhaust. But in the center here, the two sides should be really tight together. All right, there we go. All right, so there's no gap in the center there or there. There's no gap there either. All right, so there we go. Exhaust pipes are on. Well, there you go. So that's the engine details completed. Okay, so we've got another step ahead of where we're going to. So, nice. I'm guessing, let's see, where we'll go to next. Go back here, go to in the instructions. All right, so we're going to do the rear shocks now. Okay, so I need to find the shocks. Here's a packet of rear shocks. Oh, I need to get myself a little bit of grease, so I've got that over here somewhere. Get a bit of this TDK stuff. All right, let's open up all these bits. Okay, so these round parts here, these are spring tensioners as an option. So it's two different thicknesses, but they're not used on the initial adjustment, so we'll leave them off. But we're using all the rest of these other bits. Okay, let's just get the screws out. Okay. Let's see what we're going to do here. So we're going to smear a small amount of silicone grease into the tubes, which are these. And let me just make sure all this is moving smoothly into each other. So probably want to drill out some of this. That's a bit tight. Let's just open that up a bit. The right size. Actually, I think I need a slightly bigger drill bit for opening that up. Alright, I'm just going to try and find a bigger drill bit and I'll be back. Okay, we've got a pack of bigger bits here. So what do I have? 2.6 there. All right, let's try 2.4. I'll go to 2.6 if we need to. Which is that again? 2.4 is this one. Fourth one, okay. Change this collet. Let's try that. That's still a bit tight. All right, let's move to the next one. Next one's 2.6. Okay, that's really good. Okay, that's made it a huge difference. So I want the shocks to be fairly smooth. Okay, that's good. All right, so we're going to drop these in here. And then they're going to be lubricated a bit. All right, I'm just using this bamboo skewer, just pushing that tube into the cylinder. And then we'll get some grease. Lightly coat the inside. Won't need a lot of it. We just want to make sure that the head of the screw doesn't bind as it's moving back and forth. Okay, let's pop the screw in. Alright, so just moving it back and forth and making sure that it feels fairly smooth. Yeah, it feels pretty good, I think. Do the same here. Now, as we're moving it back and forth, we've just got to be careful that that tubing doesn't come back out. Alright, so now we're just going to screw this up. Put the shock lube away. I'll screw this into the end cap. Let me just find the right size. That's it, 2 mil. Make sure the spring's on. Retainer cap. All right, and then we're just going to screw it all the way on. Okay, so I think that's about it. All right, so there's one shock there. Do exactly the same with this side. Spring on. Spring retainer. And we'll screw it up. Okay. Just make sure they're the same sort of length. Yep. All right. Okay, that part there. Now we'll move on to step 3. Now this is going to be these end caps. Let's see. End caps are not symmetrical. All right, so we're going to make sure we put them in right way. Well, I guess if we put them in this way, should be fine. All right, so there's that one. This one. And we're just going to screw up this countersunk screw to keep those all together. Okay, one shock done. Actually, since I'm screwing them up this way, let's flip this one around so I've got a mirror image happening. Mechanically, it's not going to make any difference, but it'll just look a little bit more uniform if you've got 2 screws showing or 2 screws not showing when they're mounted onto the car. Okay, there we go. So we've got shocks. Oops. All right, we've got a working shock there, and working shock here. Nice. All right, let's move on. Next part. Oh, what have we got here? Yellow markings. Carefully draw out the end caps with a 2mm bit. Okay, let's do that. Let's change this back over. Okay, so we're drilling out these end caps here. This will make the action smooth when it's actually mounted up to the suspension. Okay, there's one. Okay, what have we got here now? All right, so we've got our shocks finished. Okay, so the caps are not symmetrical, which we know. So they're sort of angled like this. It's going to take a few cycles before the shock action and the grease gets spread around to feel smooth, but they feel pretty smooth now. They feel pretty good. Okay. Oh, that step's done. How's that? All right, let's go back. All right, rear suspension now. Rear suspension, let's find the rear suspension parts. Let me pop these over here. Put these retainers in here as well. Alright, so we've got bag number 8. Just move this dust out of the way. Bag 8 for the rear suspension. A lot of bits here. Alright, so there's hardware. Let's just empty that up in my parts tray here. Alright, so I'm going to use these universals, I think. Alright, so we've got CVDs. And these big chunky screws here. The universals. What have we got there? Little grub screws. M2 grub screws. I need 4 of them. I need some bearings as well, so big bearings. Flange smaller bearings. Three grub screws, just need one more. There we go. And then these shafts here. Alright, let's move these across here, get those out of the way. Alright, what do I need here? Tricky assembly sequence. Alright, I better read this through properly then. We're going to get okay, so the grub screws have to go in perfectly. Alright, so what have I got here? I've got, this is the inner, I think this is what we're going to use for the moment. Okay, so I need a 3x30 bolt. 3x30. So 3x30. Okay, so we want, these are actually going to be the shafts, the wheel shafts, and they need to be pressed in firmly. Okay, so, and if not, we need a 3mm drill bit to open it up. Now what have I got? What's in my selection here? Oh, I've got a 2.9, that's going to be better than nothing. Let's give that a go. Now these screws are going to be measured out to 3mm, and this is only 2.9, but I guess got the advantage that it will be a tight fit. Tight fit means there's less chances of any slop. We'll just see how hard it is to push them through. Alright, let's see. That's feeling pretty good, I think. Alright, so it looks like there's a hex on this side, which is going to mate up with the hex here. So let's just push that through. Make sure it's fairly snug. Let's give it a little bit of a helping hand with the end of this. Okay, so there's one. Okay, there's the second one. Alright, so we've got the shafts in. Now the tricky bit is going to be getting this grub screw in. Okay, so we're going to make sure there's got to be at least 17mm of thread hanging out, which I think there is. Okay, so if there's excessive material, you need to clean out the material on the inside. Let me get a ruler and just make sure. Okay, so we're looking for 17mm. Yeah, it's about 17mm. That's 16. That's about 16 as well. Well, let's see if there's much excess material that we can take out of there. I don't think there is. I think we're pretty right. All right, let's just run with it. I think that's going to pull tight later anyway. Okay. Okay, so we're just going to make sure we're using the inner shaft, which is the thinner one, which I have there. Push the CVD into the rear axle, note the correct end to insert, not the shaft end, as per the picture. Okay, so we need this end to go in here. Okay, small holes on both sides of the housing should line up with the holes that are on this CVD. So, I think this might need some scraping to get it in because it's fairly tight. Let's see if I give this a little bit of, oh no, it's going in a bit further now. All right. This needs to go in a little bit more. All right, so it's just a little bit off. Just need to use a little bit of force to push it in. Just pushing against the table at the moment, just to force it in a little bit more. I'll try and line it up as well as I can. All right, let's pull that out, see if there's any material I can take out of there. Now, it could be because this shaft might be still sitting out a little bit. So what I'm going to try and pull it tight. Let's see if I can do up a nut here and pull it tight. It'd be nice if I didn't have it with a lock nut on it, but let's see. I think these all got lock nuts on them. Right, let me see if I can push it in some other way. A little bit of brute strength. Let's see. All right, let's see what the other one looks like. That's pretty good. Got a feeling this is as good as I can get it. Alright, let's see if I can successfully screw these in. Right, so I really want this to be able to go through here. We're not quite there yet. Probably about half a mil out, or third of a mil. So I suspect that this is probably stopping it from going all the way in. Let me pull one out and we'll have a close look. If that's the case, I need to get a nut to pull it in tight. Yep, so it's gone all the way in. So it's the depth of this which is stopping the drive shaft from going all the way. Now I'm going to try and find myself a 3mm non-lock nutted nut just so I can pull this thread in tighter. Let's see, is there material in there? Could be. All right, I'm going to be back in just a moment. Okay, no such luck. All right, so I'm going to just use one of these nylon lock nuts. Oops, that's the wrong one. Put that back. Let's see if we can pull that a bit tighter. Right, so put that Allen key in there, make it a bit easier to grip onto. Now the aim of this is just to pull the screw further out so that the drive shaft will have more room to move in, so we can get those grub screws in there nice and snug. At the moment it's not quite reaching because of the head of this bolt. Alright, so that's getting tighter and pulling it in. Let's see how far I can go. Alright, so that's tight. Let's see if that's made an improvement. Oh, much better. Yep, that's perfect. So as you can see now, we're going to be able to slide these all the way through, and that's what we want. Okay, so for the time being, I'm just going to leave this nut there. We're going to take that off later. Okay, that's good. Well, I'm glad we worked that one out. Let's do the same for this one. Put the grub screw, Allen key I should say, in there again. And we're just going to tighten this up all the way down. Alright, I feel it getting tighter now. Just going to tighten this up until you get quite a bit of resistance, which is there. Let's just double check. Put the universal in here. Okay, and that's perfect. So again, we've got our Allen key going all the way through. Now if I want to measure that shaft now, because we're looking for about 17mm before, actually that's right on 17mm now. Okay, so it was quite important to get the 17mm mark. Okay, because the head over here was blocking the drive shaft from going all the way through. Okay, now let's get our grub scissors up. Just go back here. So what we're doing, we're going to put these grub screws in. Alright, so what we're going to do now, we're going to screw these in. Temporarily use an M2 hex bolt by 4 to cut the thread in the housing. Oh, I see. Alright, so put these in there as temporary. This one. Okay, so I'll screw them all the way up. What this is going to do is it's going to align the holes with the drive shaft, and then we'll pull one out and then we'll replace it with a grub screw. Okay, so that's all the way up. Okay, so you can see how that's all worked well. Pull one of them out. And we'll put in one of these grub screws. Feeling a bit of resistance here at the moment. It's not what we want. Just make sure that these threads are cut through nicely. The thing about these tiny grub screws is if there's too much resistance, you can quite easily strip out the head. We don't want to do that. Alright, it's a bit too tight, I'm going to have to get this out. Not too sure why it's giving me so much resistance at the moment. Let's see. What's it like from this side? Okay. Let me see if I can find something else here. Feels like these threads are not cut all that cleanly. So let's just put this screw all the way through. Okay, that feels pretty smooth now. Let's try the grob screw. Okay, it feels better. Alright, now that one's probably stripped a little bit. I'm going to replace that with one of the spares that's been provided. Alright, so they are feeling better now. So make sure this side is the same. Okay, let's try it all again. Okay, again we want to cut the thread. No, it's still a bit tight. So this step is pretty tricky. Alright, so I've used these shorter 2mm screws to cut the thread. And I can feel quite a bit of resistance in them as well, so we'll just move this back and forth a bit. Really don't want there to be any resistance at all, because these grob screws are quite delicate. All right, let's give it a go. This one's looking promising. Probably want it far enough so that the bearing can sit over it on, I think. Alright, I think that's pretty good. It's nice and flush. Alright, let's do this one here. See if I can reuse this particular grub screw. Right, it's feeling fairly smooth now. Alright, there we go. We're in. Okay, so bear in mind, you need to be very careful with these particular ones. The thread needs to be cut nicely and the alignment needs to be perfect. Okay, so we'll go through the process again. So we've got these 2x4s here. I'm going to cut the thread in the plastic. And that's screwing into the drive shaft as well. Alright, so we've got one side there. We'll do the other side. And then from there we're going to back it in and out to just open up the threads. Oh. Okay, let's try and get that in there. Okay, once you get the hang of it, it actually becomes quite easy. So this one's going in quite nicely. Take this one out. This one's going in really easy. Okay, there we go. So that was a little bit of a struggle, but once you see what I've done there, it actually becomes quite easy. Okay, so one of the biggest things to watch out for was this particular shaft. It doesn't actually get pulled all the way through, so it blocks the drive shaft you're trying to put in and it doesn't line up. So by putting the nut on the end and pulling the threads through, it's actually given enough room for the drive shaft to sit into and align those two holes. The next tip would be make sure that you use your 2mm screw for mounting these in there and for cutting the thread. So pull the screw in and out a few times just to open up the thread a little bit so that these black grub screws can go in nice and smoothly. The grub screws have a very small head. It's a very small Allen key, and if it's excessive then you can quite easily strip it out, and once you're stripped it's going to be very difficult to remove or fix. So here we go. I think that's going to be the end of this particular session. So we're up to the rear axles. Not quite finished with them yet. So there's quite a few more things to do. There's the bearings to be mounted up, but then the rest is the suspension. So I guess we'll be moving on to the next section for those bits. But at least you can see the engine. Engine's all done with the exhaust pipes hanging off it. Looks really nice. And then with these old cars, all the suspension actually hangs off this part as well. So that's going to get much more complicated looking in the future. So thank you again for joining me with this is session number 8, and then we'll have session number 9 next time around. So thanks again. If you have any questions, just leave them at the bottom of the video, and I'll get to them as soon as I can. So thank you for watching.